So yeah, earlier that year, diagnosed with ADHD. They put me on a prescription Adderall. I was taking it, seeing improvements, but then somewhere around this time, I started having complications with the
What
medicine.
time?
Around November.
Okay.
Really, before that, it was sort of like there was like adverse side effects to Adderall that I wasn't really a fan of. Like I would take it, and then like closer to the end of the day, I'd be very restless. I wouldn't eat as much. I kind of felt like a different person. And I didn't like that because I like who I am. So around November, it actually got even worse because I was having heart complications. Like when I would take it now, it's not just restlessness. Like there'd be like super sharp heart pains throughout the day, and I would get like really scared. So I didn't even consult my doctor. I just stopped taking Adderall. I was like, all right, I'm just gonna stop. I don't recommend that. Just cutting something cold turkey is not how you go about it, especially when you've like basically like dosed yourself into it. Cutting it off will have adverse side effects. They kind of showed themselves through my behavior in the latter half of this year, of 2022. I had stopped taking Adderall, but I picked up a breathwork doctor, more like a breathwork mentor, be honest. He was teaching me how to access different levels of breath, different breathing techniques, how to like expand my breath, use my breath to my advantage. I was learning a lot about breath. And I think it's actually really cool and useful information that I'll hold for the rest of my life. What the real bump in the road happened when I started drinking the Kool-Aid too much. And to be honest, I think that with the breath work, I think I was essentially being groomed for something else. I would come in and we would talk about the breath work, or he would make me wait for the breath work. At first, we did breath work strictly. And then after a while, like he would come in and he was like, hey, I want to just hip you to like, you know, financial systems and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, I know I'm already studying financial systems. I'm trading. I'm like, I know about this space. So let me see what you have to say about it. And then he started like progressively almost fear-mongering me about the state of our country and our financial systems. Granted, he's probably true, but his predictions were way too short of a time frame. He was thinking long ways out, but he was trying to make it seem like it was very urgent. And around this time, I was obviously off my meds. I hate the way that sounds. Off my meds.
Just medication.
Off the medication, whatever.
You had one.
And I was also in like this different mind frame. I'm like, I'm married now. All the ideas of like what it means to be a leader in the household like revolved around money from every other perspective that I saw. Or I wouldn't even say that I saw, I assumed. My assumption was that providership and leadership in the household was a money thing. So during this time of tumultuousness, I thought that I was going to be the hero of our family. And I had made a pretty substantial investment without talking to the wife. Now, remember, before the wedding, we had a moment, and we came to a conclusion in the moment that all decisions financially should be joint group decisions. I'm not thinking straight at this point in my life. One, from a desperation point, because I'm trying to be a man or the man of the house. Two, I'm off my meds. I'm not thinking straight. I'm very sporadic. And something about ADHD is like, it's a dopamine deficit. So you're looking for some kind of hit of satisfaction. So I'm like, this is almost like the hit of a lifetime. If I do this right, I'm like, yo, I just set us up so good. Like, oh, you finna see me. I'm finna do it. I'm finna do it. I didn't do it. I can laugh at it now. We were not laughing then.
Oh my gosh.
We were not laughing then.
Mind you, too, this is the first like major fight, not just marriage wise, but in general.
Yeah.
This caused that.
Because
We've never had a situation
always
like
been on
that
the
before.
same page all the time. I don't know what it was. I blame the meds. I blame not knowing marriage in its entirety, like just all these different things. But at the end of the day, I blame me. And like that caused such a rift in the trust factor of our relationship because we've had like flawless trust between each other when it comes to like those kind of decisions where it's like everything we did was together. We made every move financially together. Even the mistake, we were in the car together.
Yeah.
Like-
of me getting the fraud identity thing.
We were in the car together. But like that was like, I really just did it. I didn't even think twice about it. I just went and did it. And then I came back to her and I showed it to her happily. And then she's like, you did what? And I immediately knew I messed up.
We're debating on doing like a story time specifically about this moment because there's so many layers and lessons within it that we think are necessary to share in regards to marriage. Because that is one thing that I will say, like, that keeps us, I feel like, coming back to sharing our stories and our testimonies and like being transparent about our relationship is because there is a lack of transparency when it comes to marriage, which ultimately comes to like why we had so much like naiveness and why we've gone through so many like ebbs and flows. And it's something that we've observed that you guys seem to really appreciate when we break down different aspects that happen in our relationship and now marriage, where it's like, oh, we're not the only ones that go through that.
Yeah.
Like sharing different stories allows other people to feel seen and not so like crazy or like we're the only ones going through a hard time. Like, no, you're not. Everybody is in their own way, shape, and form, and it's important for us to continue to be as hot, humble, open, and transparent as possible with y'all. So
Yeah.
if you guys want a story time on
that
this
specifics.
particular, because this is, just
'Cause,
one aspect of year one.
And to be honest, this was like the genesis of my depression. We'll get more into that.
Yeah.
Patreon knows all about that.
Yeah. I will say, though, to summarize this particular aspect, this investment gone wrong situation, the main thing that we were able to reconcile with was the doggone wine glass. We were gifted during our wedding season, like first fight, first baby, first investment, and first anniversary,
Yeah.
like wines. And cracking that open was like,
We ain't finna do this again, but this is it.
that was the white flag.
Yeah.
That was
That
the
was the
white
white
flag.
flag.
So honestly, it's a wedding gift. I would 10 out of 10 recommend getting anybody who is married, or if you're getting married soon, like they have it on Amazon. I saw
Yeah.
different, but I recommend it because it's going to be necessary.
Yeah.
And that really helped us, other than obviously ongoing conversations, that helped us come to a resolve where like it was a forgive, not going to ever forget, but like let's move forward. But it was shocking.
Yeah.
3 months into marriage,
3 months
something
into marriage,
like that happening.
and I had already airballed. Boy, I was
Definitely an
I thought I was
airball.
a sniper.
Definitely an airball, bro.
And what's crazy was we had actually had a joint investment that we were talking about at that time. That
Getting into.
that we had ended up missing out on because I made that silly mistake, and then we saw the investment that we were gonna make together actually do well, and I was like, wow, like God is really like beating me up. But again, these things like contributed to some sick cycle. I think this is literally when the devil started creeping in and started whispering in my ear like, not only did you mess up, but now you have to make up for it. And then I sort of like retreated into myself. And mind you, I'm not taking Adderall anymore. So now I'm still like kind of sporadic. I'm not organized, but yet I feel like there's this call for me to be a provider still. And it's like, you messed up, so now you have to work twice as hard at being a provider.
And what does providership look like?
And what
but
does it look
also
like?
in the entrepreneur
Yes.
role, because we have a very abnormal career.
Yeah.
Together.
And like, It's much different. I don't know if there's any entrepreneurs watching this, but it's much different in the entrepreneur field to get your life together than just going to a traditional 9 to 5 where you can just plug in. Even if I'm not all the way there, I can tap in and like get my check and things work out. That wasn't happening here. As an entrepreneur, you're told to organize, execute, and execute better. Continue to do more. And I was not doing that, but at the same time, while I'm trying to do that and failing miserably, I'm also failing our couples channel, our couples brand miserably, because I thought, well, I don't want to do this, I want to do me. And again, this was like some real like ego driven toxic mentality fueling itself over and over. And then on top of that, as I failed more, it hurt more. And like it was just a self
spiral.
Yeah, it was a spiral. And to be honest, y'all, I'm just now coming out the spiral. That's probably why you're seeing a resurgence in content from us.
Yeah. And I was gonna say too, like you didn't have the language for this.
No.
When we were actually going through.
No.
The year one. I remember, was it last year? I think last year or either top of this year, we were trying to film year one.
Yep. Couldn't get it out.
Couldn't finish it.
I couldn't finish a sentence without crying.
Yeah.
And it was tough. But there were still beautiful things that happened throughout that year.
Yeah.
Like your fashion show or
oh my gosh.
So like
right
Times
in the
Square.
midst of all of this, right. So like, and that's the interesting thing too. It was like I don't even want to say like my career was at a peak or like an all-time high, but it was at a high. It was at an all-time high in its own way.
Flourishing.
Yes. So yeah, the top of the year, we had gotten, actually it was like 2 or 3 really big campaigns.
Yep.
There was a Dossier, which is like a perfume brand that wanted to partner with me to do a Times Square billboard. That was insane. We did that together. I'm the face, but this is my shooter. So that was huge. And it went live in May. I had my first panel speaking event in Canada for CurlyCon. That was huge. That happened in April. And then had the very first pre-Mother's Day fashion show with my mom the week before Mother's Day. So that was our first one, Flower Power. That happened top of May. There was just so much going on.
And now that I look back on it, I know exactly why I was spiraling.
Yeah.
I'm over here trying to work my hardest to prove myself in the midst of you just thriving.
Yeah.
And it like my brothers and my men will understand this the most because it was just inbred from us from birth.
Yeah.
That like when you get into the relationship, you're the provider. And I had no idea of the conception of the holisticness of what a provider meant. The only perspective I was looking at this from was my career and money.
Yeah.
And it was terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible. And then in contrast to your great success, it looked even worse. Like I couldn't even give myself the benefit of the doubt. But again, this had nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
And everything to do with me listening to the devil whisper in my accepting the lie.
During that, again, we didn't have the language for this the way we can discuss it now during that time. But what you weren't able to articulate to me during that time, I felt those things. Like I remember being in New York when we were at the Times Square billboard and like us having a moment where I was kind of like, what's wrong? Like, why aren't you happy about this? This is like so exciting. But you didn't have the language to explain to me like, I'm happy for you, babe, but I'm not happy with myself right now. Yeah. So for me, I was just like, dang, like.
I look like a hater.
Low-key, you look like a hater.
I look like a hater.
But I'm like, you shot, like what you shot.
Yeah.
Is in Times
and you were
Square.
trying to, and like that's.
And I wanted that moment so bad for us.
That's why you're so doggone beautiful, man. Because even in that moment, you were still trying to pull me back. And like, I was just like, I'm done, yo. Like, I didn't have the words for it. It makes me emotional thinking about it. But like, I didn't have the words for it. But all those accomplishments and everything you did not last year. Was it last year?
That was last year, 2023. Yeah.
2022 and 2023. All those things were beautiful moments. If I haven't told you, I'm super proud of you. Super, like, you shock me every year.
Stop.
You shock me every year. And I truly, genuinely appreciate how strong and how powerful of an impact you've had on the world. Not only have you done it with elegance, but you've done it in, like, it's palpable change for people. Like, I couldn't be more proud, but I wasn't proud of myself. So I didn't have those words for you then. I have them for you now. And I'm really happy. I'm really happy for you. I can't wait to see what God does in your life. I can't wait to see what he does in our lives. Like, I just needed to see some light.
Yeah.
To be a light in your life. But I was in a very dark place.
Which we had also never experienced before.
Never.
Because it was like I was aware that something was off because we've been together so long, but there was no like pinpointing like what is going on with him.
Yeah.
And the ADHD thing was like, okay, we have that understanding and like awareness, but also not realizing like the layering of what you felt like was your downfall was happening while my like uptrend was happening. And that's a hard place to be in as a couple of like, you're seeing your partner doing all these great things and so to speak, like in the light, but you're in a dark place.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that your partner can really do to get you out of that dark place. Like be supportive, keep trying to like pull you along, so to speak. But it was definitely a journey that you've had to take individually to find the light for yourself.
Yeah.
Oh, you making me emotional. I didn't think we were going to get emotional.
I didn't think so either. I thought we were going to make it through this tearless.
But I think that, at least speaking for myself, the emotions come from like gratitude. So thank you for saying that. Because I know you really mean it, but also like because we're now here filming this and like able to talk about these things.
Yeah.
The emotions for me is like more so happy that, wow, we made it out the storm.
Yeah.
Because that was like really hard.
Yeah.
For both of us in different ways.
Our year one was ghetto. Ghetto. Like real deal. Like it was like the spanking that we kind of needed from the Lord to be like, y'all better get it right and get together. Y'all got a long marriage to go.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
And like all these.
The spanking is crazy.
Yeah. It was a hard discipline, man. It was a real hard discipline.
Yeah.
But it taught me a lot of things. And it's continuing to teach me a lot of things about what it truly means to be a leader within the home. Mm-hmm. It's not about what the world makes you think it's about.
Yeah.
I had to start tapping into my word, and my word was telling me something totally different than what my perception of reality was. It says I'm supposed to love you like Christ loved the church. One, Christ loved the church before the church loved Christ. That's actually hilarious because I loved you, and I was pursuing you, and you were still on that like, yeah. And I was pursuing you. I was like, that's actually hilarious. But two, Jesus sacrificed everything for the church. I'm over here trying to gain everything for my church. Mm-hmm. But I was not thinking from a sacrificial point of view. And like in those moments, no matter how I felt, it was supposed to be sacrificial. I was supposed to be dying to my ego, my flesh in those moments and making sure that you saw the light. And leadership within this home is like, take the L of leadership and just realize that it's a lot of L's when you're the leader. Like, and it's not to say like you're taking L's in a bad way, but like you're losing for love. And like losing for love is beautiful because like not only do you get to see the success of those that follow you and like the people that are like around you, but like it is more blessed to give than it is to receive. And I think I was just so caught up on like, I need to receive so that I can give instead of thinking that I should give. And then by giving, God will give me something. And then like, I just had my equation all backwards.
I do want to say to, while you're saying this, like none of like my success or the way that I've been able to climb in this career would have been possible without you. Like, although I hear what you're saying and like there was pockets you were still so as supportive as you could have been, like, for me. And like, I bring up the Times Square billboard situation, like, you were the shooter for it. Like, and what a lot of people don't understand is when it comes to these brand deals, like, 1 + 2 is the production team. A lot of times people will have like teams of 4 or 5 different people, editors, concept creators, whatever. Like, once we get a campaign, and like, even being able to say we and it's not me, like, you've had my back through this whole journey.
It's because I love you.
And I know that, baby, and I appreciate it. It's hard to hear you. I appreciate the self-awareness. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's also my duty to like share the ways in which you still manage to show up even during a time where you were in a really dark place. Because like the fashion show, the very first fashion show, like, this was our MC. Like, the fashion show wouldn't have been possible without you. Like, what MC stands for, what is it called?
Master of Ceremony.
Master of Ceremony. Like, prayed over the crowd, like, introduced all the models. Like, you were the ring bearer of the whole event, quite frankly. And that was a role, essentially, you were thrusted into because you're my husband. You don't have to do that.
Yeah.
But you still showed up for me. And like the pop-up, pop-out, we had that first one last year, selling a whole bunch of clothes, shoes, jewelry. By the way, new one coming July 21st this month. So mark your calendars. We can leave a link in the description box below or whatever if any of you guys are interested in RSVPing for free to the event, because we're about to pull up and pop out again. Sometimes you gotta pull up and challenge, okay? But even with that, like, there's nothing that I do by myself. You're always there. And anything that I need, it's like I'm trying to explain so much in one sentence, but like, those are the things that to me feel like a provider.
Yeah.
You've provided your time, your energy, your dedication, your effort endlessly. I know there's been times where like you would let me go to sleep, but like you finish writing a concept out for me for a brand, or like finish editing something that was due the next day. Like, I wouldn't be able to be who I am without you. So there's so many, it's so complex.
It's so complex.
It's so complex. But I'm grateful for all the blessings and lessons that we've had throughout our whole relationship. But year one in particular, as ghetto as it was, it made us so much more stronger. It gave us a newfound like lens and understanding, and I think even appreciation for each other that we wouldn't have had otherwise if we didn't go through these different storms. So yeah, I thank you. I'm grateful for you too. I appreciate you so much for trying your best to deal with being in a position that's very unusual for the way that men are coached or raised to be.
Yeah.
You know, because that's something that we talk about a lot, that dwells on my heart a lot, of like, I started this journey junior year of college.
Yeah.
And then like did a boyfriend tag. I looped you into this. And you would have never... Joshua would have never been on social media, y'all. He's not into this type of vibe. Like, it's not his scene necessarily, but at the same time, God has the last word, regardless of what you thought.
Yeah.
He said, get your on this internet. But, like, knowing that I chose this path for me and you kind of, like, got dragged into it and just so happened to be great at it as well, and now we've, like, built this thing, like... I think it just goes to show so much about your character and your integrity to show up for your family, i.e. me in this regard, even during times where you did not feel like it. And there were times where you leaned into that feeling more and were like, I'm out of here. But you always came back. You always come back. It always, the self-awareness and introspection, that journey that you take yourself on, I appreciate you finding a way to like humble yourself and kill the ego, because that ultimately is what would have been the death of us, or the death of you, the death of anybody. In many ways, I've had to like check my ego, and like the flesh is so loud at times. So I have so much gratitude and appreciation for your ability to silence your flesh and listen to your spirit. Because I wouldn't be, Josh and Isi wouldn't be without that quality from you.
1 and 2. I think like a theme from year 1 was I was ready to love you, but I wasn't ready to lead you. There's a difference.
Yeah.
There's a big difference. Because leadership requires like a sense of, not necessarily like, let's take traditional like lead out. Let's redefine it for a second. When I say leadership, I mean leadership in the form of like leading by example. I'm staying disciplined in my daily duties. I'm a man of my word. I'm following through on the things I promised I'll follow through on. I'm checking in. I'm making sure the homeostasis of the home is like in order. I'm making sure my space, this space, the home is always in a sense of order. That doesn't mean I'm barking out orders every 2 seconds, like do this, do that, do this, do that. That's not leadership. That's more like dictatorship in my eyes. But leadership is more like, I'm making sure that you're good. Are you well prepared to attack your day just as much as I'm well prepared to attack my day? And if we had kids, are they well prepared to attack their day, their lives? And how am I doing as their father, as being an example to them as to like how to conduct themselves? Like at all times they're watching. So how am I leading with my example?
Yeah.
Like that mind frame.
Ready to love, but not ready to lead.
Yeah. Like loving is always going to be there. Like if you ever came and said, I need this, like I'm going to jump head first into it. But like the love will always be there, but leadership can wane if you're not disciplined.
Yeah.
Like I can love you and be lazy.
Right.
I can love you and be undisciplined. I can love you and it's crazy. I can love you and not follow through on my word. Although I would beg to say that not following through on your word is like an act against love.
Yes. Which was also a thing that we've worked on dealing with. I think has been a lot. I can't pinpoint something recently that I feel like you haven't, but I know that's been an ongoing thing. Like,
I think it's because I've been managing my word.
On what you say more.
Instead of over-promising with the premise of you seeing my promises and thinking I'm a leader, me under-promising and over-performing so you see my actions as being a leader. So instead of me saying, like, I'm going to clean the kitchen, I'm going to clean the living room, I'm going to clean upstairs, I'm going to clean downstairs, coming back and I only clean the kitchen, I'm going to say, I'm going to try and clean up. And what I get done within that space, I have to give myself grace because sometimes I'll over-predict and over-assume on myself. And that's not good because that leads to a lack of confidence. Again, these things build either for you or against you. And like I was making a bunch of promises, not following through. So not only did she not have confidence in me, I didn't have confidence in me. Who's going to follow someone who doesn't follow through?
Yeah. And that's been like, so too, we have to look at the fact that like we had completely different upbringings. We're all products of our environment. My dad passing away at a young age, like I got to see a glimpse of a marriage, a beautiful one from what I can recall, but I didn't know what it was like to have a man lead in the house. My mom made all the decisions. My mom made the money. Like that was my upbringing. You had a very different one. Both parents in the household. Dad led everything. The whole PK pastor's kid sprinkle is a whole nother layer to unpack in that.
The whole religious side of my life.
So I'm trying to think. 2021 we weren't married yet, but a big way that sticks out to me in the way that you have led is spiritually. And that really started in 2021. So much of my spiritual journey I credit to my husband because he bought me my first Bible. And maybe that's probably going to be a story for another day because this is outside of year one, but I just thought of that when like the leadership has shown in different ways. I also think this is the unique thing of like being college sweethearts.
Oh yeah,
That's
before we had life figured out.
Right. Like we got together and decided we're going to figure out life together. Whereas a lot of people like are already graduated, they're establishing their careers, they got their own kind of routines and morals and standards going. We've built like everything to try to become one every year, or closer and closer in oneness every year.
Yeah.
And that in itself is interesting, and why it's so important. Like, we hope that when we're sharing our stories and testimonies, it doesn't make anybody watching feel like, ladies in particular, I know like you guys might be showing your man or your boyfriend or whoever, like, look at Josh and Isi. We don't want that to be like this overarching thing of like, look how they move, because everybody's story is different.
It's gonna be different.
It's gonna be different.
I think what we're pushing for is for y'all to fight for love.
Yeah.
Like throughout all this, we fought for love.
Yes.
Like,
still fighting
for love
every day.
Because I'm not gonna lie, there was days where I was a hard one to handle. Like I could barely get out of bed. I have a mental breakdown out of the blue. Mm-hmm. Like we'd have a great day and then come home and like one word was said and I'm like, ooh.
Yeah. Like, but even that, like, because you in your later years now are just now acknowledging your emotions, which was never taught to men or boys that grow to men.
Like, the level of evolution that you gave me. Like you introduced me to having emotional conversations. I think that was my that's like if we were in college, that's like a prerequisite class before like the intensive course.
Okay.
So like my prereq to emotional intelligence was the emotional conversations. I could have those. I think within these last couple of years, I'm taking the advanced course of like, now I have to like look at my emotions as not a thermostat, but a thermometer.